Good morning. It's good to see you today. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you had a good Lord's Day yesterday as well. Come on with us to the book of Exodus. We're going to be looking at the account of Jethro, and we're going to be thinking about the idea of getting help. It is an interesting account in Exodus chapter 18, so I hope you follow along with us this morning. It's good to see you today. Come on with us to Exodus 18. Let's start reading in verse 13 says, And so it was on the next day that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood before Moses from morning until evening. So when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did for people, he said, What is this thing that you are doing for the people? Why do you alone sit, and all the people stand before you from morning until evening? Moses said to his father-in-law, Because the people come to me to inquire of God. When they have a difficulty, they come to me, and I judge between one another, and I make known the statutes of God and his laws. So Moses' father-in-law said to him, The thing that you do is not good. Both you and these people who are with you will surely wear yourselves out, for this thing is too much for you. You are not able to perform it by yourself. Listen now to my voice. I will give you counsel, and God will be with you. Stand before God for the people, so that you may bring the difficulties to God. You shall teach them the statutes and laws, and show them the way which they must walk and the work they must do. Verse 21 Moreover, you shall select from all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, rulers of tens. Let them judge the people at all times. Then it will be that every great matter they shall bring to you, but every small matter they themselves shall judge, so it will be easier for you, and they will bear the burden with you. And if you do this thing, and God so commands you, then you will be able to endure, and all this people will also go to their place in peace. And Moses heeded the voice of his father in law, Jethro, and Moses chose able men out of Israel to do this task. Verse 25, verse 26. It happens just like Jethro laid it out. Verse 27. Then Moses let his father-in-law depart, and he went his way to his own homeland. A little bit lengthier reading for us this morning. Not too bad though. But let's think about getting help. Jethro shows up, and again, this is after the Exodus. And Jethro was not with them in the Exodus, and he shows up and he sees what Moses is doing. And he says, The thing that you do is not good. You need to get help. You need to get help. And in that, there's a valuable lesson for us. Let's think about a few points. Jethro says to Moses, Frankly, you're going to burn yourself out doing this. He effectively is saying, Stop hurting yourself. You're not able to do this. You need to get help. And we better take that to heart. Man is not an island. We need to get help. We need people to help us. And if we do not listen to that advice, we are only hurting ourselves. All right? So, get help. Listen to what Jethro told Moses. Even Moses needed help. But also, Jethro told Moses, You won't be able to bear it, and frankly, the people won't be able to bear it. What Moses was doing was not just hurting him, it was actually hurting everyone. So when we think about getting help, it's not just for our sake, it's for the sake of others. And if we do not get help, in all likelihood, the relationship that we have with others is going to suffer and is suffering. That's one reason that we get help. It's not just about us, it's about them as well. So stop hurting yourself and stop hurting others. Get help. It also, I want you to think about it, allows others to grow. With Moses and the congregation here, as these men are being chosen, it's going to promote leadership within Israel. It's going to allow others to step up like they need to step up and to grow. And when we need help, we need to get help because it allows others to help. It allows them to help, and in that sense, it allows them to grow. It is more blessed to give than receive. Well, for every giver, there has to be a receiver. And if we need help, we need to be on the receiving end of that help, and it gives them an opportunity to help, and they are blessed because they are able to give that help. Hopefully, all that makes sense. It allows them to be the blessed giver. It allows them to grow. It gives them an opportunity as the two parties draw closer together. Get help. It allows others to help. And that's a needful thing. You might also think about changing the culture. We live, we'll start with Israel. I want you to think about the sort of culture that it was going to develop, because he says choose men over 10, over 50, over 100, right? It goes up like that. They were coming to Moses for everything. So I want you to think about what the culture is going to start being like. If you have some quibble with a neighbor, it would be like if you had a quibble with your neighbor and your neighbor said, "Well, I'm going to the Supreme Court for this." Really, we're going all the way to the top court just for this. And think about then switching to, well, no, there's a neighbor across the way, and he's overseeing the 10 of us, our family, your family, and someone else's family. And if we have any issue, he's a whole lot closer to us than Moses is. He might know us a whole lot better than Moses does, and he might be able to settle this. I want you to think about the culture. What Israel needed to do was they needed to be more willing to submit to one another, more willing to yield to one another. And they needed to get along. What this passage reminds me of, there's a passage in 1 Corinthians, I believe it's chapter 6, where the Corinthians were suing one another and they were taking one another to court. And they're just doing this. And Paul says it was an absolute shame. And he says, is there not someone wise who can judge between you two, between whoever it was who was squabbling? And the Corinthians, they were behaving, 1 Corinthians 3 says they were behaving like mere men because they were arguing and they were sniping and they were being divisive and things like that. They needed to change the culture. Israel, I would suggest, the culture is going to change as these changes are being implemented. And when we get help, and this comes to the application for us, when we get help from others, and when others help us, and when everyone starts helping one another, watch the culture change rather than everyone doing what's right in their own eyes. Because what happens when everybody does what's right in their own eyes, that's when people start, everyone does what's right in their own eyes, but they're all a part of the same group. So you have 50, 75, 100, 100,000, or a million people all tugging in different directions. But see what happens when people start helping one another. You'll see the culture change. Whether we're talking about a whole lot of people or a few people or just a handful of people, get help, ask for help. And when others ask us for help, we need to help them. See what happens to the culture. Just a little bit of our daily bread to get us going today. I appreciate you tuning in to this brief consideration of Jethro and the idea of even Moses needed to get help. Appreciate you tuning in. Hope you tune in tomorrow morning for another study from God's Word. Appreciate you being with us today.